Welcome back to the Malaysia Money Matters Show. It's December 3rd, 2024.
Oh,
We're going to be diving into some company news and global events today. All that stuff that could impact the Malaysian market.
yeah, things are moving pretty fast out there. Some companies are making some big moves. Others, they're facing some headwinds.
Right.
And then, of course, there's all the stuff happening globally, which always seems to keep us on our toes.
Yeah, always something, right? Okay, so let's get started with something that I thought was really interesting. This news about Malaysians withdrawing billions from their retirement savings accounts. I mean, it just makes you wonder if maybe people are feeling a little bit of a pinch right now.
Yeah, it's something to watch for sure. You have to wonder, are people dipping into their savings, to cover their costs today? Maybe it's a sign that folks are struggling with prices going up or wages not really keeping pace. Or it could even be that people just aren't as confident about their long-term financial security as they used to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, retirement seems so far away for a lot of people, I guess, but those savings are important.
Absolutely.
Speaking of important, Penang's plans for that huge new industrial park seem to have hit a snag.
Yo, right.
That big consortium led by IJM Corporation had their proposal rejected.
Yeah, the government decided to go back to square one, start a whole new process for accepting proposals. Kind of a setback. I mean, you'd think they'd want to jump on a project that's promising 100% focus on industry.
Right.
And IGM saying they didn't even get a chance to properly explain their proposal.
Huh. So now we're looking at a whole new round of bidding, more time, maybe some lost opportunities.
Essentially, yeah.
And speaking of Penang, they've got another big project on the horizon, right? A brand new LRT system.
That's right.
Bidding is open, but it sounds like they're only looking for, well, some really serious players.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're talking 10 billion ringgit. Makes sense that they want to see some experience. They're requiring companies to have completed rail projects worth at least 500 million ringgit.
Wow.
Going to be interesting to see who decides to go for it. It could really change things for transportation in Penang.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now let's switch gears for a minute and talk about a company that's been making headlines.
Okay.
Sunaway, right? The founder, Tan Sri Jeffrey Che, he sold a pretty big chunk of his shares. I mean, what's going on there?
Well, he still controls over half the company, but you're right, 100 million shares is a lot to just let go.
Yeah.
Is he maybe diversifying or stepping back a bit? I don't know. It definitely has people talking.
It's kind of a mystery.
Yeah.
But on a brighter note, Sundarby Property just landed a massive deal.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be leasing out data center facilities for the next, get this, 20 years. Talk about planning for the long haul.
Wow. That's a pretty sweet deal. 5.6 billion ringgit over the next 2 decades. It's smart, too. With the way the data center market's booming, they've basically locked in a steady income stream for years to come.
Yeah, that's pretty savvy. Now let's talk about an industry that's been getting a lot of buzz lately, solar energy.
Ah, yes.
Investors are going crazy for these solar stocks, but some analysts are saying, hold on a second, are these companies really worth all the hype?
Well, it's a mixed bag, right?
Yeah.
Some of them are putting up some solid numbers. They've got tons of orders coming in. Their projections look strong.
Yeah.
But others are having trouble turning those contracts into actual revenue.
Okay.
Seems like maybe investors are getting ahead of themselves a little bit.
So is this a sign that the solar bubble is about to burst? Or is it just a bump in the road for a sector that has huge potential down the line?
That's the million-dollar question. Renewable energy is still a pretty young industry. There are bound to be some ups and downs. But, one thing's for sure. The world's need for clean energy, that's not going away anytime soon.
Right. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that could have big ripple effects for Malaysia. The U.S. is ramping up its efforts to basically put the brakes on China's semiconductor industry. They're imposing all these new restrictions on exports, and they're targeting over 140 Chinese companies.
It's just another chapter in this whole U.S.-China tech rivalry. And this one could have some global consequences. These restrictions, they could disrupt the supply chain for semiconductors. Those little tiny chips that are in everything these days, our phones, our cars, you name it.
Right, and that could be a problem for Malaysia, couldn't it?
Right.
I mean, we play a pretty big role in that global semiconductor industry, particularly when it comes to assembly and testing.
Absolutely. Any disruption to that global supply chain could definitely impact our tech sector.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Okay, let's focus on a Malaysian company that's been facing some challenges, Valesto Energy.
Okay.
They specialize in offshore drilling, but analysts are a little bit concerned about what the future holds for them.
Right.
They just got a downgrade, even though their recent earnings look decent. What's the story there?
Well, it all boils down to concerns about how much work their drilling rigs will have in the future. One of their rigs, the Naga 8, it finished its project ahead of schedule.
Huh.
So now they need to find a new contract, and that might not be so easy in the current market.
So it's all about keeping those rigs busy.
Exactly. If they can't secure those new contracts, their earnings could definitely suffer.
And speaking of potential economic woes, it seems like the manufacturing sector in Malaysia is hitting a bit of a rough patch.
Yeah, for the second month in a row, the sector has actually shrunk. Orders are down, production's slowing, and hiring has basically stalled. Not exactly a pretty picture.
But wait, aren't exports still doing pretty well?
Yeah, that's right. Exports have actually been increasing for 8 months straight.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a puzzle, isn't it? You've got this slowdown in manufacturing, but demand from overseas seems to be holding up. Mixed signals. Hard to say what it all means for the health of the Malaysian economy right now.
Wow. So we've got some things to celebrate and some things to be a little bit concerned about.
That's right.
Well, before we jump into the final recap, let's take a moment to just digest all of this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a lot to unpack. Some sectors are doing well, others not so much. And then you've got these outside forces like the US-China rivalry, which, could have a real impact here in Malaysia.
It's like trying to solve one of those Rubik's Cubes, so many moving parts. But hey, let's talk about a company that seems to be doing pretty well, Public Bank.
Right.
Their share price is up. Analysts seem pretty optimistic about their future earnings.
Yeah, well, there's some buzz around Public Bank right now because they're thinking about releasing some of that money they set aside to cover potential loan losses. Okay.
It's kind of like when you budget for something and then you end up not needing all that money.
Yeah.
They're basically saying they're feeling good about the economy and about their borrowers being able to repay their loans.
So it's a bit of a gamble, but if it pays off, their profits could really jump.
For sure.
All right, let's zoom out to the global scene for a second. Things are getting pretty dramatic over in France.
Oh, yeah.
Their government's facing a pretty serious political challenge. It could have some ripple effects throughout Europe. It's Marine Le Pen, the far-right leader. She's really leading the charge against the government's budget. She's demanding more spending on things like healthcare and pensions, even though the government is trying to cut back.
So it's that classic clash, different political priorities.
Yeah, and the outcome could have a big impact on France's economy and their place in the European Union.
Absolutely. I mean, France is a major player in the Eurozone. Any instability there could create a lot of uncertainty for the whole region.
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on.
Okay, before we wrap up today, let's take a step back and look at the big picture. We've covered a lot of ground today, from what's happening in the Malaysian market to political drama in France. I mean, what are some of the key things that stood out to you from all this news?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that uncertainty is kind of the name of the game right now. Whether it's the global economy, the tech sector, or even the political landscape, there are just a lot of unknowns out there.
It's like we're sailing in uncharted waters. You never know what's around the next corner.
Exactly. But I think there are also some reasons to be optimistic. The Malaysian economy is showing some signs of resilience, and you've got companies like Sim Darby Property and Public Bank that are making these strategic moves to set themselves up for growth down the road.
And let's not forget all the excitement around renewable energy.
Right.
Even with a few bumps in the road, the long-term potential for solar and those other clean technologies, it's hard to deny. It's an exciting time to be following the Malaysian market, and we're here to help you make sense of it all.
Absolutely. So stay tuned, stay informed, stay curious. We'll be back soon with more deep dives and insights to help you navigate the world of Malaysian finance and beyond.
Wow. So we've covered a lot today. I mean, everything from trends in retirement savings to that global fight over semiconductors to political shakeups in Europe. What's really sticking with you? What feels like the most exciting thing we talked about?
For me, it's got to be that Sime Darby property data center deal.
Yeah.
5.6 billion ringgit
Yeah.
over 20 years. That's a big vote of confidence in their strategy.
Right.
It's a smart move, especially with data centers becoming, well, essential really to all of our digital lives. I mean, they've basically got a guaranteed income stream for the foreseeable future, and that's impressive in a market like this.
It really is. That deal's a game changer. It seems like they're really, really taking advantage of a trend that's that's just getting bigger.
Yeah.
And they're not the only ones, right? I mean,
Right.
Public Bank with those potential write-backs, that also kind of suggests that they believe the economy is in a pretty good place.
Right. Yeah.
It's a calculated risk for sure, but one that could pay off big time if
Yeah.
they're right.
Absolutely.
But we got to remember the challenges too, right? I mean, the slowdown in the manufacturing sector, that's a reminder that there are still some things working against the Malaysian economy.
Yeah, for sure. It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
And all the uncertainty around the solar energy sector. I mean, that's another thing investors really need to pay attention to. Huge potential, but it's still early days, It's going to be volatile. Investors have got to be smart, not get caught up in the hype.
Yeah. Got to weigh those risks and rewards. But that's what makes following the Malaysian market so fascinating, right? It's always changing, always new opportunities, always new challenges.
That's the truth.
And that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
To help you make sense of it all. We've given you a taste of what's happening, but the real journey is in continuing to explore these topics, coming to your own conclusions.
Absolutely. I mean, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better equipped you'll be to make good financial decisions.
So stay curious, stay informed, and stay tuned to the Malaysia Money Matters podcast for more deep dives into the Malaysian market and beyond. Until next time, happy investing. Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you would like a deeper dive into all the investment opportunities from today's news, subscribe to my newsletter at moneymatters.substack.com. I will be sharing a deeper analysis of the key investment opportunities from today's news, including what makes these opportunities stand out and how they fit into the broader market trends. By subscribing to the Malaysia Money Matters newsletter, you will also get exclusive insights on my watch list and portfolio and fundamental reports on Malaysian listed companies.